The game Regression Quest, which is all about performing quadratic regressions in real life scenarios. This game would be designed for an Algebra 2 course in high school and would essentially come between two units that deal with quadratic functions or equations. Students would learn prior to this how to do linear systems, which is an important piece of the regression process, and they would also learn how to solve quadratic equations. Using those two strategies and the ideas behind the functions, performing a quadratic regression by hand is essentially taking three key points on any quadratic function, plugging them into a system of equations and solving it to find the a, the b, and the c value of the quadratic function in standard form. Students will have learned how to do that prior to this lesson and also learned how to use technology tools such as graphing calculators to do that. With that in mind, in order to receive full credit on this particular assignment, students will go through 5 different scenarios where real life quadratics can show up, and they'll be able to see essentially how those things apply in the real world. To gamify the situation, what I've done, taking the advice of peers, is to give students 10 points for every question they receive correct, for a total of 50 points, which can take the place of any quiz that the students take throughout the course of the semester. So in this case, I said for the lowest quiz grade, because typically a student would want whatever the lowest quiz grade is to be replaced with the 50 out of 50. So by the students taking this seriously, taking their time, and getting questions correct, they can actually receive a perfect score toward a quiz. And that's the gamification elements. So I'm going to click Start Course, and we're just going to begin. Of course, this is a game. And so the first question here is Capitol Hill. This is all about a student named Andy that these students are essentially following through these processes. And he's meeting a local state senator, but he notices that up here in the Capitol Dome, we have, I'll kind of do this here, this Capitol Dome shape right here is in the shape of a parabola, or what we would call a quadratic function. And so Andy and the senator exchange conversation, and the senator tells Andy some key pieces of information, such as the top of the curve is 20 feet above the bottom, and the entire dome is about 40 feet wide. Using that information, Andy calculates 3 points that could potentially represent that parabola on an XY coordinate system, 0, 0, 20, 20, and 40, 0. At which point, you, the student, would take this information and perform a quadratic regression either by hand or using technology. The question pops up, which quadratic function would model this situation, A, B, C, or D? By selecting an incorrect response, ideally what would happen is the question would say, try again, which it will here. It says incorrect, try again. But unfortunately, at this point, I wasn't able to create the course in a way that it would not also tell the correct answer or allow the students to move forward. One of the peers gave an example of potentially incorporating a Kahoot in, and I'm personally not familiar with the Kahoots. I've heard about them, and I'm very much interested in being able to embed that in here if it would allow me to have that ability to let the student try again without being able to move on otherwise. But again, in this particular case, I wasn't able to do that because I haven't had a chance to really work with that. And I didn't get that feedback until late Saturday evening. So I'm going to click Take Again just to show you if it didn't tell me what the correct answer is, which I do know the correct answer is A here. What would happen is it would say, congratulations, great job, you've just received 10 points. 10 points toward our 50-point goal. And so I'm going to click Continue to go to the second scenario, Igloo and Who. And again, this is kind of a whimsical kind of game. It's obviously about finding quadratic regressions and so forth, but it's also just to have a little bit of fun. So this student, Andy, goes to Alaska. He's looking at an igloo, which happens to model a quadratic function if you look at it from our perspective. And he's run across a polar bear that thankfully is asleep. And so, of course, Andy's a little nervous about that polar bear being there. He calculates 3 points on the igloo's curve, 2, 5, 6, 10, and 8, 7. and wants to figure out the best quadratic model for that situation. In this case, the correct answer is letter B. So he receives 10 more points to his total for 20 total points, 3 more to go to get out of that bad quiz free card. And we continue on. The native curve. Andy visits a Native American village where he notices that the house is specifically built in a parabolic way. It has each of these cross sections. In fact, the ones even go across are this way as well. But each of those cross sections do represent a parabola or a quadratic. And so Andy and the man and the woman, husband and wife, are discussing the calculations. Andy looks at it and finds 3 points here. And of course, the same thing is going on. He's doing the same exact math. This time, he would select letter D as your correct answer. D gives him 30 total points. And just again, just a kind of a joke compared to they were visiting Native Americans. Are you sure quadratic isn't your native language? 4 points in the paint, behind the back assist. Andy's helping some friends play some basketball. In this case, he's letting one of his friends jump off of his back to make a slam dunk. And it's just the scenario of those students talking about what's going on. They see the points because in this particular picture, there's actually a few different things we could have looked at, such as maybe the ball's flight, which would take a parabolic motion. The student's going up, the ball comes down. But in this particular case, Andy is interested in calculating this 3-point line, which represents a parabola as well. So he's given the 3 points, or finds the 3 points, 0, 0, 15, and 19.79, and 30, 0. They find the quadratic function in this case, which I believe, if I go back here, it's going to be letter A, which is correct. And so he shoots, he scores, he's 4 for 4 with 40 points, and only one more question to go before it's over. In stage 5, Run Andy Run, he finally thinks he's finished, and he goes to visit his girlfriend only to find she has other ideas. And in the process, he notices that there isn't actually a parabola right above where he might end up saying I do. So in the particular case, he sees the points 0, 0, 5, 2, and 10, 0. And then, of course, he needs to get out of there before he gets hooked into something he may not be a fan of. The correct answer here is letter C. And we have completed the game. You did it. You've successfully completed all 5 scenarios. And the perfect quiz score is yours. The bad news, she's going to want half. And so to finish it all up, it's party time. We've gotten 5 out of 5. We've gotten our 50 points. We've gotten our perfect score for our quiz. It's just time to celebrate. And so everybody's here partying and having a good time, just chilling out. I think this will be a great opportunity to take some music, maybe celebrate good times or something. Just a short clip that we would be able to use for free, just to say, hey, we did it. We successfully completed the game, and we're ready to move on to some new topics in our Algebra 2 class.